Hello everybody, welcome back to the Basement Breakdown. First off, we did very, very well in our picks for UFC 313. And I haven't really spoken to you since the Emmanuel Cape fight versus Amabayev, which we also did very well on. So I just want to do a quick recap. We'll start off with the UFC fight night, Cape versus Amabayev. So for the fight night, we got the first fight of the night wrong, Charles Johnson versus Razbanek Timiryov. It was a decision, a close decision at that. If some of you want to call it a robbery, you can. I personally thought that it was very close. You could have given Charles Johnson the second round, but ultimately they gave it to Timiryov. So we were wrong on that. Then we go to the women's flyweight matchup. I'm really not going to spend any time on this at all. JJ Aldrich is who I said would win, and she beat Andrea Lee. Nothing happened. Danny Silva beat Lucas Almeida by decision, which is exactly what we bet. Chepe Mariscal beat Ricardo Ramos, which is exactly what we thought. A very one-sided decision. Next, we had Austin Lane versus Mario Pinto. Austin Lane was one of the only former NFL players to fight in the UFC, the other being like Greg Hardy and maybe a couple others. But I was a bit worried for my pick of Mario Pinto in the first round. Austin Lane came out heavy. He hit Mario Pinto with some heavy shots, knocked him down, thought he might get him out of there. And he actually started the second round very strong as well, but, you know, Mario Pinto talked to his coaches, and he ended up knocking him out, which is what I thought would happen, which is good. Next, we go on to the Danny Barlow-Sam Patterson fight. I'm very happy that I made this choice. Sam Patterson, there was a lot of people who were kind of doubting this, but I said Sam Patterson would win. I said he would submit him, or I think I said submit or finish or something, but I'm pretty sure I went with submission. But he did beat Danny Barlow. He knocked him out. He was looking a little scared, I guess, in the first couple of exchanges, but you know, he ended up knocking him out in the first round, and he got more comfortable, and he landed that knockout punch, and then he finished him, which was great. That Haider Emil versus William Gomez fight went to a split decision. Could have gone either way, but to be fair, Haider Emil was really, really pressuring him the last two rounds, and so we got that one wrong. The next one we also got wrong, but you have to take into account that the ones we did get wrong, they were all split decisions. So it really could go either way. I think this one was a very bad decision. The Nasrat Hakparas versus Esteban Rivabics, I thought it was a clear first round for Nasrat, and the second and third were Esteban. You heard a lot of the crowd boo for that. I really think Esteban won that, and I mean, it is what it is. Maybe it isn't the worst robbery we've ever seen, but his eye was really fucked up. And I think damage is a huge dictator of how you score fights now. So I really thought just giving the new judging criteria, they would have given it to Esteban. But that's not what happened. Next, we had Cody Brundage versus Julian Marquez. I said Cody Brundage would win. I didn't see a knockout coming from him, but he recently was talking about his daughter who got diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder. And she has very intensive care, and he has to pay for that. He was very inspirational on the UFC Fight Week with some of his words. So, I mean, I took that into a little bit of account when we were making that decision. Annie, come here. Annie, come. This is my my dog, Annie, if she decides to come over here. Annie, come here. Come here. Get up here. Awesome. All right, she's my golden retriever. She's around 8.5 years old. I got her towards the end of high school. I love her. Anyways, Annie also likes UFC. Yeah, so Cody Brundage won in the first round. They exchanged blows. I thought Cody Brundage actually might get knocked out for a little bit, but, you know, he ended up being the one doing the knocking out. Julian Marquez is probably going to get cut from the UFC after a couple losses. And then we go to the main event. I'm very proud of this because not only did I predict the main event, I predicted the round and the method. So I said round 3, KO, which is exactly what happened. I didn't predict that there'd be a couple eye pokes coming into the KO, but one can't really predict that. So I'm very proud of that. All in all, that was a good card, but let's get on to the UFC 313 card. That was a good card. I very much enjoyed it. There was a couple canceled bouts, as I mentioned in some of my posts on my YouTube channel. Chris Gutierrez and John Castanda got canceled. I said Chris would win, but we didn't get to see that fight. The next fight was Ozzy Diaz versus Jordan Santos. Now, I follow an Instagram account, like I think it's called MMA Verdict, but it basically gets like an AI to kind of score the fights. And right after a fight happens, they'll sort of post it and kind of see what the fights are scored. This is a fight where I was actually live commentating, and I said that DeJordan Santos won the first 2 rounds, like clearly, so they should give it to him. Ozzy Diaz definitely won the third. And the first was close, so I really thought they were going to give it to DeJordan, but I guess, yeah, they gave it to Ozzy Diaz. So we were wrong about this one. I'm not very upset about it. The next one was almost like me kind of, I think the MMA gods kind of gifting me a win, because this fight, Marion Santo versus Francis Marshall, if you guys follow that AI account, it's like they didn't score a single round for Marion Santos. So when I heard split decision at the end of it, I was like, oh my God. And then they gave it to Marion Santos, which was my pick. I believe some of the MMA YouTubers, from what I've watched, you know, I think MMA Guru didn't really think it was such a bad decision. To be fair, like, I mean, he didn't do much with his grappling, and I guess Marion Santos towards the end of the fight was busting up Francis Marshall's nose, but I really did think that Francis Marshall was out. Did he outland him? I guess he didn't actually on the stat sheet, but I mean, I really thought he was the heavier punches, more control. I thought he was doing more, and on that MMA verdict thing, he won all 3 rounds. I mean, maybe when I watch it back, it's not the worst robbery I've ever seen. Definitely not the worst robbery I've ever seen. I remember that Amir Albazi versus Kai Kara France one, where I was like, what the actual fuck? But yeah, definitely a weird one for sure. But at that point, we were 1-1. Our next pick was Carlos Leal versus Alex Morono. I said Carlos Leal would win. I said that Alex Morono has a chin on him, so I didn't think he would get knocked out. And he does have a chin on him. That was a crazy fight, Carlos Leal ended up knocking him out in the first round. They exchanged some heavy shots. Alex Morono landed some counters, but yeah, Carlos Leal just kept coming, and he got him into the corner, and he just kept landing until the ref kind of called it off. Now, I think Alex Morono most likely will probably get cut from the UFC after this. You know, he's coming off of a couple losses, to say the least. What is he coming off of? Yeah, Daniel Rodriguez, Nico Price, he loses to. I guess he beat Court McGee 3 fights ago. And then before that, he lost to Joaquin Buckley, and he beat Tim Means. I'm really not sure if they're going to keep him around after this. There's not really many options for him to fight in the welterweight division unless you're going to give him like a prospect who's coming up. But like, from what I've seen, I don't even think he would be a great test for some of the prospects. So I don't really know if that's really within the best interest of the UFC to kind of just keep him fighting. But yeah, I mean, my intuition would probably tell me that they're going to cut him. But all in all, that was a really cool fight, so we got that right as well. The next one was an underdog who I bet on as well, Bruno Ferreira versus Arman Petrosyan. I said Arman would hit him with some leg kicks, which is what he did. I did not see Bruno Ferreira submitting him, which is what happened. I saw more of a knockout, which was kind of what was going on. Arman Petrosyan's a lot taller than him, but as I said, the dimensions of Arman Petrosyan are kind of weird. For a guy who's as tall as he is, his reach is very, very, very short, and that kind of gives him like a reach, like a distance issue. So he was landing leg kicks. There was 2 groin shots in the first round where the ref actually took a point away, which was nice to see, a little refreshing. Probably should have done that for the Henry Cejudo. I think it was also Jason Herzog, too, the guy who didn't take, during the Henry Cejudo and Song Yadong fight, like he didn't take a point away from Song Yadong. And then you hear Henry Cejudo kind of tweet in the middle of the fight. He's like, wish that would have happened during my fight. But yeah, so they take a point away. Arman Petrosyan probably, I think he did better towards the end of the round than Bruno Ferreira did. But with the point deduction, I think it would probably be an even round, or you give it to Bruno Ferreira. But yeah, in the second round, he submitted him, which was great. As I said, Arman Petrosyan now is probably going to get cut from the UFC. I'm not sure what you really do with him now. I don't really see him continuing this. I think he's probably more than likely going to get cut from the UFC. Our next one was Joshua Van versus Ray Chishiria. I also picked Joshua Van for this fight, so we did very well on that. I think maybe I said TKO, but I think I went more with a decision. This was a great fight. He won all 3 rounds. Ray Chishiria, I said, won his last round by takedowns. This is kind of what he tried to do to Joshua Van this time, and it really didn't work. He went 4 for 21 on takedowns. I believe in the second round, he gets into side control with a very nice, he gets a very nice takedown against Joshua Van, but he was able to get up to the cage and kind of get back up, which is really impressive to see. And Ray Syria just kept shooting on him for the rest of the fight, and people kept booing. But yeah, Joshua Van showed great takedown defense. His striking was on another level. And Ray Syria is a young guy. I believe that this was the fight where both fighters were born in the 2000s. So these are some young guys fighting. Makes me feel a little bit old. But yeah, Joshua Van's like 23, 24, and Ray Syria is 22. So that's kind of cool, I guess. We move on to the main card. Yeah, so the Dan Hooker, Justin Gaethje fight obviously was canceled. Then we saw Mauricio Hoofy versus King Green. Now, I said that I would be foolish to say that Bobby Green wouldn't get knocked out, and that's exactly what happened. This is probably going to be the KO of the year. Mauricio Hoofy is he kind of reminds me a little bit of like Conor McGregor a bit, just when he was coming up in featherweight, just by his style. His striking is so good. And the way he set up that head kick was freaking crazy. Yeah, Bobby Green, man. He got on Instagram Live after or posted, I think, a brief story saying that he's not done yet. We'll talk about that because I want to do some matchups for some of these guys after who I think they should fight. But yeah, man, that was a crazy knockout. King Green, I think since he's changed his name from Bobby to King, he's suffered way more losses. So, you know, might have to go back to just being Bobby or just retire. But, you know, like okay, I'm going to get to this in a bit. But next fight was absolute dog shit. Amanda Lemos versus Yasmin Lucindo. I don't think you should be putting women's fights on pay-per-views unless you know that it's going to be a banger. And unless you know that they're going to throw hands. Like, this is like, or maybe like you put on a championship fight or something. Because the last two women's fights that I've seen on the last two cards have been absolute shit. And I'm sorry to say that. I know both of them would submit me and whatever. That's not what it is. But it's a very boring spectacle to watch. Especially the day after Women's Day. Yeah, Amanda Lemos ended up winning the decision. Arguably could have won all 3 rounds. I think Yasmin Lucindo had a lot more control in the last round. But then she got her position reversed. I put my bet on Yasmin Lucindo. I was wrong. I mean, in hindsight, it makes more sense for Amanda Lemos to win this because of the caliber opponent she's fought. And she looks more like a dude than Yasmin Lucindo. When she walked out, I couldn't tell. She kind of looked a little like Charles Oliveira. So, I mean, that's a good dictator sometimes of who's going to win. So I probably should have gone with that in hindsight. We also got our next one wrong, unfortunately. Jalen Turner versus Ignacio Bahamondes. I wasn't extremely confident in Jalen Turner. I was expressing how, you know, I thought Ignacio Bahamondes is a very good fighter, which he is. Jalen Turner retired actually after this fight at the ripe old age of 29 years of age. He got submitted. Jalen Turner is a terrible decision maker when it comes to in-game fight decisions. We know that from the Moicano fight where he knocks him down and then he looks at the ref to stop the fight, knowing that Moicano is still conscious. And this one was a little bit different, but Ignacio was landing some nice shots. He cracked Jalen Turner a little bit, and Jalen Turner was doing well. Ignacio tried to take him down. Jalen Turner ended up getting into, being the one on top. And instead of really, you know, getting out of his guard and standing up, which is probably where he would have had more success, he decided to stay in his guard. And yeah. He caught his arm, and that was basically it. Poor decision-making for Jalen Turner. It's very unfortunate. He was on a nice win streak before a lot of these losses happened. He went to a split decision with Mateusz Gamrot. I would have given that to Jalen Turner watching that back. That's unfortunate. Then he has that banger of a fight with Daniel Hooker, another split decision. Then he beats Bobby Green, who just got knocked out. And then Jalen Turner, and then the Moicano fight, and now Ignacio Bahamondes. So, yeah, he retired after. I don't really know, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Next, I'm really happy about this. So these two, the co-main event and the main event, I almost predicted to a T, which I was very happy about. I posted my picks a day before the actual fights, and I kind of clipped a couple of them and made them into shorts just to prove what I was saying. But yeah, I have a good friend named, my friend Amir. He asks me a lot for his UFC picks and stuff, and I can say this because it's happened before, but his girlfriend's dad likes to bet on fights, and he only bets on underdogs. So I said this would be a good card for him to actually bet and I gave the Magomed Ankalaev parlay with the Justin Gaethje because they were both not favored it actually. So I thought that would have been a good bang for your buck, which evidently it was. Awesome, good for me. Yeah, I said Justin Gaethje would win a decision. I was very hesitant, but I did say that he would win a decision. Yeah, I said he would stand in the pocket more. The first round went more towards, Rafael Fiziev kind of had a different approach the first round. He took him down a couple times, didn't submit Justin, but I was definitely worried going into that second round until that uppercut from freaking out of nowhere comes and Justin Gaethje sits Rafael down. And then he kind of gets into I thought maybe he'd get finished by that, but both these guys have chins on them, and their last fight definitely told us that. So, he stayed in it. And then the third round happens. And then the first 2 minutes kind of go by, 3 minutes kind of go by. The third round was close until Justin Gaethje kind of pulled ahead towards the end, landing some big shots. He landed a head kick that kind of wrapped around Rafael Fiziev's head, which didn't knock him out. Oh my God, I don't know why. That was a crazy fight. I said he'd win a decision, and that's exactly what he did. He stayed in the pocket more. He was aggressive. Great fight. Now we get to the big one, the main event. Magomed Ankalaev versus Alex Pereira. I said it. I said Magomed would win. I said Alex Pereira would land low kicks. He did a lot better with his takedown defense. A guy who hasn't been, doing jiu-jitsu and stuff for that long and, really hasn't been doing much of a ground, doesn't have much of a ground game as he spent most of his time kickboxing. So that was really cool to see. I believe he stuffed every single one of Magomed Ankalaev's takedowns. But as I said, Magomed is no slouch on the feet. He cracked Alex Pereira. The first round I give to Alex. The second one you got to give to Magomed. And the third one's close, but then I gave the fourth and fifth to Magomed Ankalaev. And Alex Pereira definitely showed very good takedown defense, and he landed great low kicks like I thought, but Magomed used his control, held him against the fence. He landed some nice strikes. At the end of the second round, he really wobbled Alex Pereira bad. But yeah, guys, we have an new champion with Magomed Ankalaev. He doesn't fight too often, so it's a little upsetting, but now I want to go back and I want to do a little bit of matchmaking for these people. I guess I'll do this a little bit differently. I want to just go from where we stopped and then down, but Alex Pereira and Magomed Ankalaev most likely are going to have a rematch. That's what Dana White says. You do the rematch. Because of Alex Pereira's success at heavyweight, I honestly think it's better than giving any other matchup. I think that you do Carlos Ulberg's supposed to fight Jan Blachowicz, and then you give the winner of that Yuri Prochazka to maybe see what happens with that. But yeah, you have Jamal fighting Khalil Roundtree. A lot of people already have matchups who are very highly ranked. So I think naturally you do Magomed Ankalaev and Alex Pereira. I have absolutely no idea when that's going to happen. It'll probably be in October or some shit. I hope not, man. I hope Magomed Ankalaev makes a big turnaround. I'm not sure how hurt his legs are, but they didn't take too much damage in that fight. It was quite a snooze fest. To an extent, but yeah, I think you match these guys up against each other for a second time and see what happens, because it was a very close fight, to be honest. It was basically a couple things in the rounds that dictated who you give the round to. So if you make little changes, then it's a close decision, you could give Alex Pereira 1, 3, and 5 if you want to. I didn't see it that way personally, but because it was this close, I think you have to do the rematch. Okay, now we have Justin Gaethje versus Rafael Fiziev. For Justin Gaethje, I think this guy probably wants a title shot next. I think maybe you do Dustin Poirier versus Justin Gaethje 3. They both wanted to do that, I think, after Dan Hooker pulled out, and I think Justin kind of changed his tone towards after his win versus Rafael Fiziev. Since he won, I think now he is more focused on the title shot, other than fighting Dustin Poirier, which would be a sick fight because they both have knockouts over each other. I think that I don't know if you can continuously do this thing where a guy beats a guy ranked out of the top 10 and then gets a title shot, which is what we've seen from the last two, even though Moicano got that last minute. I think Justin Gaethje needs maybe one more win. I'm not saying that he can't get a title shot or that it's not a good idea because Islam hasn't fought him. So I could definitely see them do that, but I can also see them doing a Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier third fight. That's what I think should probably happen. And for Rafael Fiziev, I don't know if this will be very popular, but I want to see him get back in the top 10. In that Mateusz Gamrot fight, like, he was outstriking him until he got injured. And then I believe Rafael Fiziev wanted to rebook his fight for in February, but Mateusz Gamrot kind of turned that down. I think you give Rafael Fiziev versus Mateusz Gamrot for a rematch, and then hopefully Fiziev beats him and then becomes a higher ranking. You could give him some other guys, I guess, in the... give me a second here. I want to see what the lightweight division looks like. Just little outside of the rankings. Lightweight division, UFC. Yeah, I mean, there's guys outside the rankings that would be good matchups for him, but I don't want to see that, and I don't think he deserves that. Mateusz Gamrot's ranked number 8th. I say you give him. Next, we got Jalen Turner versus Ignacio Bahamondes. Jalen Turner retired after, which I mentioned, so you can't really do anything with that. Ignacio Bahamondes didn't take any damage at all that fight. And neither did Mauricio Hufi. I think that you could give either Ignacio Bahamondes, Mauricio Hufi. I think it's more likely that they give him, I think they should give him Grant Dawson. He only has a loss to Bobby Green, and Grant Dawson, I think, is ranked number 14th or something. He is a great jiu-jitsu, he's great on the ground. I think that would be a really good matchup for Ignacio Bahamondes. And maybe then you give him like a top 10 guy or a top 5 guy. That could be cool. Or you give him Mauricio Hufi. I really don't want to do this, but Amanda Lemos, I guess I'm going to have to match her up with someone after that fucking stinker we just saw. How about she fights Mackenzie Dern for a second time? I know she kind of whooped her butt the first time, but I don't really know what you give her right now, and I really don't want to spend too much time on it. So let's just say Mackenzie Dern versus Amanda Lemos too. All right, Bobby Green and Mauricio Hufi. Mauricio, I think he should fight either in Ignacio Bahamondes, because he has not been tested on the ground and his striking is very good, but I think he might run into someone who is very good on the ground, and that might not end well for him. But you could also give him a guy like Beneil Dariush to kind of get him, into the rankings and get him as a higher prospect, because if you don't want to put Ignacio Bahamondes and Mauricio Hufi against each other, that way you have 2 prospects coming up instead of, maybe one of them beats the other and then one of the guys loses his steam. So that could be the case. So I think more than likely you give Mauricio Hufi, you might have to, give him like Beneil Dariush, which kind of sucks. I mean, he's not done very well recently, and he was supposed to fight Moicano until they switched that to Islam, but they gave him his money to show, and I think win or something too. They did their due diligence. I think that you could probably do Mauricio Hufi versus Beneil Dariush. I just want to see him against a guy on the ground. And if he beats him, he's going to be in a good position to fight higher ranked guys. So I think that works out very well for them. Now, Bobby Green. Bobby Green, man. I know he's not going to retire, but he got knocked out really badly. Really, really badly. And he's been knocked out very badly recently. What they have to stop doing is putting Bobby Green against these prospects, because it's over. He beat Grant Dawson on a fluke win in 2023, and they ranked him after that, and then they've just been feeding him after that. They gave him Jalen Turner after that. He got knocked out bad by Jalen Turner. And then he wins versus Jim Miller, who's like 1,000 years old. I obviously like that fight, but it's an older Jim Miller. And then he gets submitted in the first 3 minutes by Paddy Pimblett. And then he goes out versus another prospect. It's like prospect. And then you give him Mauricio Hufi, he just gets knocked out. Like, you can't keep doing this. The days of giving Bobby Green prospects are fucking over. If he wants to stay in the UFC, you give him Michael Johnson. Michael freaking Johnson versus Bobby Green on a fight night, maybe to cap off a prelims. You can even start off a main card with it. That is the fight to make. Like, Michael Johnson, he's coming off of a win. They're both older guys. They're both in the same division. I think that's the fight to make. I think any MMA YouTuber or anyone, matchmaker, whatever. Like, this is the fight to make for these two. It's no more of these prospects going up against these guys, specifically Bobby Green. We don't want to see it. Now we'll go to the prelims. Yeah, man. Joshua Van looked very good against Ray Teixeira. So I think naturally you give him a bit of a better grappler this time around in the flyweight division. Maybe like Tagir Ulbanekov or something would be cool. And I guess you do that. I don't really know what else you could really do for him. But, you know, you could put Ray Teixeira versus someone else. Because if the UFC goes back to Japan, they definitely want to have like a full card to actually represent Japan. So they actually have a couple guys they could do that with right now. They could put him in there. Bruno Ferreira. I don't know who he should fight next, middleweight. Someone not ranked still. He should fight. Should he fight Joe Pyfer? I don't know if he should fight Joe Pyfer. Maybe like a Roman Kopylov. Yeah, I might stay a little dormant on this one for a little bit and kind of sing on it. But yeah, I gave two, I guess, options, Roman Kopylov. And now Alex Morono, I think the UFC will cut him. Carlos Leal in the welterweight division. What if you run back? You know who I kind of want to see him fight? I want to see him fight Renat again, man. That was a close fight. I don't know if Renat's actually ranked right now. If he is, he's probably towards the butt end of his division. Yeah, he's still not ranked. I would really like to see him run that back with Renat. Maybe not in Abu Dhabi so we can get a fair decision. But yeah, Carlos Leal's definitely going to be still fighting outside the rankings for a bit. Marion Santos, featherweight. I really didn't think, I mean, I'm happy he won. I'm not really sure what you do with Francis Marshall. I'm going to leave that one actually for now and kind of let it marinate for a little bit. Then we have the Curtis Blades fight that was canceled. Do you rebook this? Because this has been canceled like 3 freaking times. Like, what do you do with Curtis Blades? I don't really know. Is Cyril Gahn going to fight like Jalton Almeida sometime soon? I don't really know what you do with Curtis Blades right now. But we're going to have to see if they rebook this or just give him another opponent. And for the early prelims, I mean, Ozzy Diaz is a middleweight fighter who's still going to have to fight outside the rankings for a bit. Did Jack Shore just sign a new contract? What if we give him Jack Shore? Would that be a good fight? Jack Shore. No, he's not even in the freaking... He's a featherweight. What the hell am I saying? Jack Shore. Yeah, man, I don't know who we give Ozzy Diaz. You got to give him someone unranked still because he lost to Zhang Minyang before this fight. I think this is his first win in the UFC, so they'll probably give him somebody. I'm not sure who. But, yeah, so that's kind of a little bit of my matchmaking for the UFC 313 card. We did very well with our picks. All in all, it was a decent card. It was a good card. We got to see like some highlights, some knockout of the years. A knockout of the year from Mauricio Hufi. And yeah, guys, that and the Emmanuel Cape versus Amabayev, we did very well in the last 2 weeks for picks. I expect to keep it up. The next fight night is Marvin Vettori versus Roman Dolitzier, which is a rematch between the two. Yeah, I'll talk about that in another video. It's not going to be too exciting. It's not a crazy card or anything, but I think it's still worth giving my picks just because this is an MMA channel and this is what we do here. We give our picks out. And we do our best to, you know, infer on who's going to win and who's going to lose. So, yeah, guys, this is the Basement Breakdown. I'm very much enjoying this. I'm very happy with the last 2 weeks, as I keep reiterating. I hope you guys are having a great week. I think we finally got a kind of intro song for this podcast, which will be great to add. And we'll start doing some more animations and stuff. So, you know, upwards trajectory. We're only going to get better from here. I appreciate the people who subscribe and the listeners. I'm going to do lives more reacting to the fights and stuff. A couple of you guys joined, which I really liked. It was really fun meeting some of you guys. And I know like I don't have too many followers or subscribers right now, so it was very nice to, you know, maybe not have a big audience, but I was able to interact with the people who I was able to talk to. So that was great. Anyways, that's the episode for today. Basement Breakdown out. Thank you for listening.